Welcome to another video hosted by Spellstorm Miniatures. My name's Dan, one of your regular co-hosts. I finally got my hands on the Marvel Crisis Protocol core set. I've been really excited about this game ever since seeing it. Just heroes, miniatures. It's a great combination. This is by Atomic Mass Games. I want to go ahead and show you today a little bit of an unboxing of this video. When I say a little bit, maybe a little bit longer than I anticipated. But the backside here kind of gives you the little short in-depth of the game, and really what comes in it is this scenery back there. They have their table of contents here, plenty of items to really add value to this one, including all these heroes and villains. You can mix and match them. It's a really great system based on a 40mm size. And then you have dice to help kind of even out the odds, give it that extra dice game manipulation. And then you have health and wounds and power tokens to add into the rest, so you can really feel like you're in the movies doing your Marvel action, or in the comics, really whichever one you prefer. Pretty typical right out of the box when you open it is the instruction booklet, or the learn to play in this case, and it is detailed pretty well. I mean, the artwork's really neat on it, mirrors a lot of the front of the box. So let's go ahead and open it up and take a look in of how to set up scenarios, how movement works, some ideas of terrain, and again, just more of the miniatures painted up really nicely in their environment, further details on the characters, and even how to build the different pieces, which came in very handy considering there are all these little different pieces on sprue, as we'll take a look at here in a few minutes. But it's very nice to have a nice detailed assembly diagram of each character. Then underneath that we have the cards, all in a nice little Ziploc bag right here, easy to get to. Open them up real fast. Here we go. So all the characters have their own stat card. They have their name, nice little artwork on them, and description, all their stats, and some of their abilities. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of the first ones here. We've got Baron Zemo. You'll notice at the top of the card here is their health, their movement ability, their threat cost, and their defense dice. And then as it goes down, their different strikes, superpowers, and traits, or pretty much active superpowers that are always on. I'm not going to go through all the cards on this just yet, but they all kind of have the same standard. Now we look at the token tray here, a bunch of punch-out cardboard, which is always kind of fun to do. There's markers for power, for health damage, the tracker for rounds, points, also a bunch of the different scenario options that are in there as well have all their little tokens for them when you place them about the board. Now we get in here, another nice bag. I like how everything's kind of bagged separately, makes it very easy for organization. But the dice are special to this game. They have certain symbols such as your hits, your defense, your blanks, and your crits or wilds that give you different abilities and activate again within those different powers. We can get further into gameplay explanation on maybe another video. But when we go further into there, we have the first bag, which looks like the New York City terrain set, which does come along with it. And it has some lampposts, building, street lights, or crosswalk lights, I should say, along with a trash can in there. Next, we get into the character packs that when you look in there, they're not individually fully separate. There's a few of them in each bag, but they're all on their own sprue. And then there's a second one, that's the Ultron base there, and then this one's actually mixed with the dumpsters, kind of maybe Ultron's trash, I don't know, subliminal messaging. And then, I mean, she's really not. Then just again another bag with some more of the characters inside. Let's take a closer look at one of the sprues. As you can see, they're all pretty much easy to cut off. There's not going to be any really crazy cleanup on them or anything. They're actually fairly on there well. This is a hard plastic kit, very similar to, I would say, GW's or Malifaux. Very, very similar to those, I felt. Then we got some of the terrain pieces here. We got the car and part of the building. Getting that in a minute. Then the bases. Now, these are kind of interesting. I wasn't exactly expecting them to be on the sprue like this. And then at first don't really notice, but there is the main bases, and then you notice the little sprues are little extra bits. Now those are actually little basing materials that you could use, but I didn't catch that right away, honestly, but we'll get back to that. Then we have the cards. Again, pretty much simple. They're all nice in one pack. And then underneath, there's a little bit more surprises. We have the cars, the tops of the cars anyway, I should say, and they're two separate sprues, and then the measuring sticks. Now again, go over it a little bit later too, but this game uses its own measuring sticks, and so it's not always clear what the measurement is. This is the longest range measuring stick, which is about 10 inches. Then we have the long movement stick, and that has its own little uses. But coming back to the bases, you can see they're actually really well detailed. Little paint and a wash, they'll pick up a lot of the divots, giving them the real realistic, used, worn cement look. So you have the larger bases. Then the backside actually has a little bit of space if you wanted to put a magnet. I thought for all the magnet users out there, that's kind of neat. And then there's the little bits I was talking about, like the coffee cups and so forth, that you could add onto the bases to give it a little bit more. Then onto the sprues themselves. This one we have a few of the different characters laid out there, and you can kind of guess which one's pretty easily between Iron Man, Black Widow, Crossbones here, and then Baron Zemo on the one side. It's really not that bad to figure out where each piece goes. However, they do also have the guide I was showing earlier that really highlights and shows a good build procedure for them. They're all really seem like they'll fit together pretty well with a little cleanup. Then on to the next set, we've got Red Skull, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, and Captain America. Again, a few little pieces here and there. There are actually some extra bits on there, like Red Skull here has the two cosmic cubes in case you lose one, I guess. Again, small parts, so it's nice to have those spare ones. They all have the tabs that will fit really nicely together. And again, not many pieces to them and fairly easy to assemble, as I'll kind of show off a little later after I get them together. Alright, then the last close-up group of the characters, your bigger boys, your Ultron, and your Dr. Octopus. Now, I have a lot of ideas for Dr. Octopus, and he's got his claws, his feet, giant body there, the arms crossing. So again, they should fit together very nicely. Ultron even has his own base going on, his kind of base insert, so they should be really fun. Then we have the dumpster. Again, very straightforward. You have two of them, easily labeled. There's a couple small parts to be aware of, mainly on the hinges. Otherwise, you've pretty much got your dumpster and your lid. There's even a hollowed out area. I'm trying to think of a way to maybe magnetize or hinge it. Would be kind of cool. Next up, we have the cars. So, fairly, again, simple. Few tabs, nothing much to them. But that simplicity does have its nice features as well. They also come with a couple spare parts if you want to make one a taxi and one just a regular car, or just make them both kind of regular commuter cars. So here is the bottom side of the car, along with, like I said, the taxi symbol here, the side mirrors, and all four tires. Although that could make an interesting one. Have maybe one jacked up, a couple tires missing, have it on cinder blocks. Just a thought. Next is the building. You have the bottom here, which is trayed a little bit for the pieces just to kind of sit in, and they have little tabs on them as well. That was the two walls. Then we have the other two longer walls, the window for like the newspaper sitting, and then we also have here the roof along with the Daily Bugle sign. Yeah, there's a better shot of it. So you got your newspaper cash register or whatever supplies you're selling, and then the trash can there, which I missed on my initial look of the opening. But pretty clean. Have a few ideas on how I want to do some buildings, maybe add some 3D printed parts on top to add some features. Then the lampposts and the crosswalk signal, the bases for them, very easy to put together. Didn't even need the instructions on these, right? Lamppost glues onto the base, and then you're done with it. Next, we have the cards. You have the variety of cards in this. You have your like crisis cards that essentially make up your mission. There's two varieties of that, depending if you're first or second, how you choose. Then you also have your 8 cards in your hand that are kind of your, I guess, your action cards that you get to play when characters do certain things. And so they add a wide variety. Now, these cards also will come in the packs as well. So you can always add a few more that way. Then we have team affiliations and who needs to be the leaders for that. Like, for example, the Cabal is Red Skull and who's able to play on that team, and Avengers and who's able to play on that team. And you have to have, I believe, 3 in order to get the affiliation so that you can have the leadership ability that either in the starter Red Skull or Captain America grant. Now, I'm guessing there's going to be more that will just kind of come out for some more leaders and affiliations. Then you have your scenario cards. Actually, I really like this. Instead of looking them up, you have them right there for when you find out what your scenario is. You get to play it, and setup's pretty easy that way. Then the art on the cards. This is just great. I love the detail. Really helps wrap you into the Marvel universe of seeing all the different cards and their names on them. Like I said, just adds that nice, fun flair. And now on to Hulk and MODOK, CPO4 and CPO5. These are the separate box purchases from the main starter set, and they are the larger bases on them, even larger than the Dr. Octopus and Ultron in the starter set. Let's go ahead and get into these big boxes to see what they hold. Hulk is up first. Here is the bag of contents. Again, like all the rest of the boxes, they're all just one package of characters, which is very nice. Everything's right there for you. Then they have their own read first kind of protocol on it. Really just again showing you how to build the model and talking about some of the basics on assembling of these. Quick zoom out here, we're able to get the full breadth of the contents. We have the tokens, the card, followed by the different sprues. 3 in total on this one, mainly for the body, the legs, and then the base, and then the 4 cards as well. So you can get a good look at them. Seems one of the main routes of expansion for new cards is going to be this route. You get a couple more cards to add to your repertoire, and then this one you also have the gamma markers and a couple more wound and power token in order to help fuel Hulk. The sprue kit itself is made up of about 18 pieces. Let's go ahead and get over to MODOK. We start off with the same read this first brochure, however on the reverse side is the instructions for MODOK. Again, very similar. I suspect we're going to see this often. You have the tokens, so again extra wound and power along with some special tokens for scenario. His card, his main character card, followed up by the extra cards to expand your base of cards to play, and they get the scenario. Then we have his base, the exact same one that Hulk has as well, followed up by 2 full sprues of his body, made up of just about 12 pieces, all pretty big and chunky. Then we have, like I said, his cards here. Get nothing too special, just have to check them all out. Here I wanted to give you a close-up shot of exactly what the Hulk pieces look like. Again, you can see the very nice detail on them. You've got a couple of the fists, the legs that go together, the body, 2 pieces. Pretty much they're all mainly 2 pieces, and this guy is pretty big. So you kind of can tell why they need it. The backside has the pins to all go together. Fairly straightforward, nothing too crazy on them. Then MODOK have your arms and legs are pretty much one piece because they're pretty small. You have this cool uh, base piece where he's like exploding off. It's a smoke trail of his rocket, his doomsday chair. Backside, the body is almost 3 pieces, and then you've kind of got this other piece that goes on the backside, and the rest are really used to prop him up and give him that extra movement. The movement sticks are a little bit interesting in the fact that you have a short, medium, and long, And they don't really give the length of these, but you also notice they have some angle to them. So when you're moving your character, you're basically touching the base, and then wherever it touches the base again is where they move. So your larger bases actually get a little further up the field, but you can basically line them up wherever you need to. So this one, there he goes, kind of moves it, and it just slides back and forth. Again, kind of if you're trying to get around something, it gives you that a little bit of angle. And then you can see they come in the 2 pieces as well, and they just click together. It was pretty easy. Then you have the 2, 3, 4, and 5 measurement sticks for melee and range attack measurements. Almost fully together, we have the first starter set and the 2 big boys back there, MODOK and Hulk. Now, as you can probably quickly see, I'm not fully done Cosmic Cube here. Well, they did include 2 of them, which I said was nice. However, I dropped the one I cleanly cut off first, and it's somewhere in my carpet. And the second one, I clipped his thumb. So I'm actually going to get from a local, when his comes in, is get the second, his Cosmic Cube if I can't find mine. And so Red Skull will have something right there. Other than that, most people are pretty good. Captain Marvel, I did a little bit different. I took Spider-Man's base because, as you can see, Spider-Man, I ended up putting on the crosswalk light. Doc Ock, did some little bit of work on him. We'll look at him a little bit closer in a minute. He's missing another piece here. I'll get to that. Hulk, yeah, MODOK, Crossbones went together pretty good. Zemo, I used his. And Ultron, I actually did a little bit custom as well. Just didn't feel like his base really was what I wanted it to be. So that's the hobby side of this. But it's a great assortment. Now, each one took me about 10 minutes to do. Spider-Man a little bit longer because I probably spent 5 minutes just determining his pose, which might as well just show him off now. Ended up trying to give him a little bit more of motion than just on the smaller base. Now, it does make him basically as tall as Hulk. Feel it kind of gives him some diversity. Did have my son kind of help me decide how to put him on there. I was going to base him on something else, but it didn't quite come in time, and I got a little anxious. I wanted to put these guys together. Other than that, he actually is pretty smooth. Nothing too bad. I've noticed a couple people have had issues with some gapping on the legs, but that didn't really happen to me. I just used getting plenty of plastic glue and just held them on for a while. I have a little bit of a gap on his arm here, but the style I'm going to do these, you shouldn't even really notice that. So there he is shooting on down towards his foe. And we'll jump back to the leaders. Captain America here went together pretty well. Again, about 10 minutes on these guys. Maybe he spent a minute or 2 just determining on how to put them on the base. But his arms were a little bit tight. These shoulder pads being separate were very kind of actually frustrating. Shield went on all right. His legs were separate as well. So hopefully getting the plastic glue gloss will all go away. But shield a little rough there. But yeah, mainly just a couple gaps there. Again, I should be able to hide those in painting pretty easily. Red Skull, we talked about him. I think he may have gone actually a little bit quicker. Pretty basic pose. Just the head. His arm back here. Mine ended up with a little bit of a gap right here. As you can kind of see it. So his arm's not quite touching his back, as I'm guessing was more the plan. But it's alright. His hand there. Very static but intimidating Red Skull. Iron Man here was a little bit trickier in these arm pieces. Just the joints and the way they're held, and then his legs. His legs gave me difficulty as they're separate there and here and here. So just fitting them in was a little bit tricky, but nothing too bad. I got some gapping going on. As it's just basically armor, not really much of an issue. You kind of expect some of that anyway. Next up, Captain Marvel. So first off with her, I did a little bit different. This is actually Spider-Man's original idea of the base. And I'm going to have to do some touch up where his feet were supposed to be and kind of edit that around. But just felt that it gave her a better flow and just a little bit different. Make her a little bit more unique to mine. Other than that, went together pretty smoothly. The toughest part was probably the sash, just catching it in the corner there. It attaches just right there. Other than that, our arms both went in real easy. Head, obviously easy. Legs are actually somewhat tricky because, again, they're two separate parts going on. So just lining them up, and then I had to trim in order to get it on the little piece that stuck out the tab to go on her base was there. So I just flattened that out to try to get her to stand just a little bit more upright. I almost got it. She's slightly tilted, which is gonna annoy me a little bit, but maybe it just gives a little bit better action pose to her. It's alright. Let's check out Black Widow. There we go. Now we can focus a little bit better on her. Hulk and MODOK kept stealing all that focus. So Black Widow, again, quick, easy one to piece together. Surely this holster and pistol were separate. The legs here, arms. This one was a little bit harder just because it's so pronounced. I wanted to keep hanging off, so I had to hold that. But then had just one piece on there, and then a little bit of the elbow right there. Which again kind of shows up. I don't know if you can see it very well, but once she's painted, it won't really matter. Again, some nice detail going on. There's already going to be another Black Widow coming up we've seen previews of, so that'll be interesting to see the contrast between the two. So there you have Black Widow. Crossbones, flinging a fist across. Also took a little bit of time trying to figure out on the base, so I want to give them a little bit different of a pose and not all perpendicular, as it just seemed a little bit more unnatural. So maybe he's kind of punching up on the sidewalk or something. But his face piece, this little face compared to the cowl, was separate. So that was not too bad. And then again, his pistol and this pouch were separate, and the legs, the arms. So I have a little bit of gap there, and then he had a two-piece body as well, which lined up pretty well. Zemo, he was a little tricky. I kept his original rubble base insert just because it worked out, and also trying to get him to stand on this like curb. I originally wanted to put this foot up on a curb because it's just about the perfect height, but this sword sticking out so far past the base is just a little too unruly to fit on there very well. So tried to make it look a little bit special. Then two-piece head, sword arm here attached right underneath. Can't really see the seam right where his wrist is. Then legs, this little fur piece, and then attached to the torso, and again, two-piece body. Which was tricky about him, and again, they included some extras, was elbow pad there and there are separate. Now, I wasn't paying very much attention when I first did it, and I clipped the two that were next to each other, not realizing they were different. And I was trying to attach like this one onto here and to here, and it wasn't working very well. So when you go to build this, pay attention. They include these extra pieces, but they do go to different spots, which also enables it to build a much easier than the sword sticking out. Actually, pretty good retention on it. The hard plastic works well. It is a little slanted off his arm, but you know, I'll just have to kind of live with that. And let's start getting into the bigger people. Ultron, nice and posing, pointing right at you. I'm going to get you pose. And his was separate. This piece was separate from here. So gluing those together, slightly tricky. His arm, double arm piece here, shoulder pad. Again, kind of the upper and the lower arm were separate. And really made it tricky, which was one reason also I didn't use his rubble base, is these legs glued in here and then here at the knee as well to the hips. Well, I glued it and not having the base in mind. Let me grab that actually. All right, for my spare bag, try to repurpose it. So this was the original base for him to be standing on, kind of higher up onto that rubble, giving that little bit of height and imposing. Well, when this glued together, now his tabs of his feet didn't fit in here. I glued them, they were actually slightly too far in, so it wouldn't fit this base anymore unless I wanted to re-break this. But it kind of worked out. I didn't necessarily want to use this base, even though it looks alright. It can be kind of nice, and I'll probably use it on a future model. Just fill those in or something. Oh, there's one of his extra hip pads. That these were separate too. Those were kind of really annoying, and the legs were separate pieces as well, I should point out real quick. So like I was saying, it didn't fit, so I just ended up finding one of the bases. My other base I had to choose from was the Doc Ock base, which also could have worked as well, but I just felt this was fine. Again, kind of the crosswalk area. But I ended up taking bits of the sprue that he was off of and just chopped it up roughly the same size, using a pair of side cutters, and then I just kind of started playing with them and gluing them on. And so I put some underneath his foot here since it was at an angle, tried elevating it, and again it just wasn't fitting. Even with this one, it just wasn't fitting right, so I ended up piling some bricks on there. So once it's kind of down, it just looks like a pile of bricks. I might, depending, add a couple more just for scatter. Then I played around with a few more, and since this one was slanted, I had to chop some bricks up and put them underneath there as well to give him all the support. Again, just a couple on the side there. So maybe just destroyed a building. Dr. Octopus, most people are kind of familiar. His original pose is actually standing on his feet with his arms kind of like this one coming over and around. This one comes roughly this way, and then this one coming up and over this side. Well, iconically to me and a few other people I've seen, is Doc Octopus walking on his arms. Because, I mean, why would you walk on your feet anymore? I mean, clearly it doesn't work out that much. But his was two-piece body again, boots fit on there, then onto the torso. This was all pretty much one piece, and then the arms went in really easily, and head. So actually fairly simple, straightforward model there. But these all glued in the back. They each have a slightly different shape from the back to these, so they have very pronounced where they go. And then the claws, this one's made up of two pieces, these are single pieces, and you'll notice I'm still missing one here, which again, they have plenty of them. There's a whole nother, there's the half, and then a couple extra spare ones in there. Oh, there's my chopped up cosmic cube. So I'm going to edit those, and actually my son suggested that I have him yanking a fire hydrant and water coming out. So we're going to see if I can make that happen. If not, I was thinking just simply like a pole or a parking meter or something gripped, and he's throwing that, or just pulled it up in order to use it as a weapon. This one's kind of striking, walking on the other two. So how I did this was quite easy. Again, this one was... Alright, my battery died. I had to replace that. So this arm was the basic standard arm, and it was in two pieces, roughly right around in here. They actually did it pretty nice to where, actually, maybe this is a single piece. These ones are two pieces right there. And then another one right in there. So a couple of them are two pieces, and they just melded them. You just easily glue them. Not much of a problem. So what I had to do to get these guys was get a heat gun, and very carefully, see, I actually overheated a couple of these, especially this one, the first time I was doing this one, because it was the longest stretch. In order to bend it, I got a little too hot, so I lost some detail here. I think I'll be able to add in with some black lining. And then I actually melted the point where it puts together, because I didn't glue it first. I really should have glued it first and then heat gunned it. But I was able to kind of chop it up and put it together. It's another reason I kind of bent this arm. Since this original pose was going to come kind of on the inside and really be pushing on this, I decided to bend this one slightly on the outside and then put another glue point there. Then this one actually kind of lesson learned, since I hadn't done it in a little while on this plastic, and then was able to get this one out once I had that one set. Found the position on the base, and then just slowly went back and forth and did this one until it kind of balanced out. And then just glued them on his 3 points there. And then this one, again, mainly I wanted to add a little bit more action, but because this is a little bit weaker, I wanted to give better support down here, so that maybe this is kind of the weak spot. And I ended up just doing the same brick idea. Had I known that this was included with the set, yes, you get a little trash can as well, I probably would have melted this down a little bit and made him actually crushing the can. I think that would have looked really cool, but you know, so we live and learn, and maybe another time or a different sculpt I'll use that for. But yeah, there's Dr. Octopus, and taking a little bit longer on him. I'm just a little bit happy of the mods made on him, as it took me the most time out of all of them. Hulk here actually went together, again, pretty quick and easy. He does have a bit more gaps in the knees, torso, kind of right there on the crotch seam, unfortunately. But as it's kind of the zipper area, it's shading, should be able to hide it hopefully well. His arms were a little bit tough. Again, just a bigger model makes it a little bit tougher to do. But all in all, really straightforward on the wrists, so his arms, two-piece torso again. His head was all yeah, his head wasn't too bad. Mainly hair, face, kind of the two pieces there again. So, I mean, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I mean, 8 or so pieces, and these together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces. There we go. And he's together. Quick glue. And that base, for the larger base, is the same as MODOK. So if I wanted to get them going and playing, I don't know if they'll come up with different scenery bases, but I kind of had to just start playing them as is. And because of how his foot was arched here and his hand is so far out, I decided to put him as far back on the base as I can and kind of give the stepping down off the curb look. Going to go in the street and take someone out. The MODOK here, who actually I just noticed is slightly slanted when you take him head on. He's kind of leaning that way. Oh, now I've noticed I can't unsee it. So it's because of how his base went on. This smoke on the bottom here, I think just the way the level is on it ended up. But yeah, so this is all one piece, and then he kind of multiple pieces in here. Little back piece, chair, slight gap there. His arms glue in very cleanly. Legs went in real easy. Another arm there. And then his body, 2 pieces, and then a 1-piece toupee. Let's call it. So it actually caps it off really nicely. And then his base, I just kind of, again, put on a little bit different to make them look slightly different bases, even though they are the same. But I'm really excited to put MODOK on the field, actually, in that they included him as one of the characters instead of, like, could have done Abomination, Red Hulk, a couple different Hulk villains to kind of balance it out. But you got your Brawn, that can be Brain if they come up with a Bruce Banner. Now, that'd be an interesting mechanic if you could go between Bruce Banner and a Hulk on the battlefield. Alright, Atomic Mass, maybe you can work on that if it's not already planned out. But anyway, so the MODOK is really kind of a neat choice to do. Not as well known as people, which is kind of funny when they talk about well-known characters versus not well-known. And from my background, a couple of them, like Crossbones seems a lot more obscure to me than Baron Zemo, because, well, I mean, it's Baron Zemo. Obviously, everyone pretty much knows Spider-Man. I mean, even MODOK I kind of knew, right? Like, all his AIM shenanigans, more than Crossbones. So, but hey, it's all about the Marvel Universe movies now. Most of these have all been included, I think, except for MODOK, because well-known Crossbones, Zemo in Civil War, Captain Marvel, her own movie, obviously, Iron Man tons, Red Skull, So Dr. Octopus in some of the Spider-Man movies. Now you have to get a Vulture, Kraven. Be really neat to see the Sinister Six as well. I know they can only do so much. They only have so much of a schedule and so many models to do and make all the fans happy. So I'm looking forward to getting some games in and what else Atomic Mass has to provide. So let's now go ahead and check out some of the terrain pieces that came with it. Alright, drifty camera. Oh, the Daily Bugles. That works. And here we have some of the terrain pieces that came along with the starter set. You can also get these at the New York starter, the New York scenery pack. Now, again, maybe I just wasn't very good on this, but I did not know these were included. So I'd ordered the scenery pack as well, but it got delayed. And I'm kind of glad it did. So first off, we have the car. I haven't assembled this yet because actually I took a little bit of a different approach. For about $5, I just picked up some die-cast cars that are about 48 millimeter scale, and they fit actually pretty well comparatively. Height-wise, they're about the same. Maybe with wheels, this will be a little bit taller. Width is just about spot on, and then length, it is a little bit. Let me move some of the stuff here. Whoops. Destructive scenery going all over the place. And length, it's a little bit longer, but again, if I'm about the height there, and these were $5, so kind of hard to beat. Pre-painted, good to go. We'll see how well they fit in with the scenery, and I might end up painting up and assembling the car itself. Then we have the lamppost. With the lamppost we have here is a nice size. Should grab one of these figures for comparative cap here. Again, gets you the size of the car and everything. Again, you get 2 of those, which is nice. Same with the dumpsters. You get 2 dumpsters here. I've left my top able to come off for the moment. Maybe I'll do something with that, or probably end up magnetizing this before I put it all together. But it was really simple, a few pieces, and even built-in dents. You can kind of see them there. So that should be another fun part. Trash can. Didn't even notice this. Or else, like I mentioned, the Doc Octopus one, you glue the top on. I would have used this as a piece of basing for him. Again, you get that guy, and then you get a Daily Bugle building selling some nice newspapers. Right there, some good detail. Again, I haven't glued this one all together. Again, I might magnetize this just to make it easier to store, so I can kind of break it down, set it up as I need. There's also some 3D printing that's already been going on to create some of this terrain to blend in, or there's other sites to purchase more, but obviously Atomic Masses is set for the universe. Again, you get 1 building, 2 dumpsters, 2 lampposts, trash can, trash cans of cars. Oh yeah, forgot to mention Spider-Man, what he's on. This guy showed him in his basing is the light post. Is the crosswalk sign and light. So I found another tutorial on some interesting stickers to put inside these to make them look a little bit better. But you get 2 of those as well, and again, I just kind of couldn't wait and tossed the Spider-Man on there. Although maybe coming off of the lamppost just didn't quite work. So that's your terrain set.